All right, good morning, everybody. I promised myself I would not be hungover for this talk, but didn't exactly go that way. It was very nice to see some old friends. I was hanging out with the Polkadot guys last night. I saw Dr. Gavin Wood, Bjorn, Ed Hess, Obi, my old friends. Seen lots of old friends here. It's very nice to see you all. So today we're going to talk about what we've been cooking up at Telos, and hopefully it might resonate with some of you. Interestingly enough, I was just in Hong Kong at the Web3 festival. I gave a talk on recursive proofs, in particular something called snarks, which actually Alberto, our ZK lead researcher, is here, developed. And shortly after my talk, Vitalik came on stage and sort of somehow outlined basically our entire strategy. This is just a brief view into the history of Telos, because a lot of people don't know or might not know much about Telos. It was actually launched in 2018. In 2021, it came onto my radar. If you guys remember, it was called the Geth Return Data Corruption via Data Copy Exploit. In 2021, this thing almost brought down Ethereum. And actually, it was discovered while fuzz testing the Telos EVM. So in some weird way, Telos is very well connected to the history of Ethereum. Of course, once that exploit was discovered, rapid action was taken. The coordination was incredible, and Ethereum was saved. And more recently, we launched snarks, and I'll talk a little bit about that in some of our strategies going forward. Just a little bit of some of our memes. We've got this really fast EVM. It's been around for 5-6 years now, 300 million plus blocks. So I think as a R&D effort, it's been an interesting project. Okay, so getting into the more substantive part of this discussion, what's sort of preventing mass adoption? My good buddy Alberto often uses the example of renting a vehicle using a blockchain system in a crypto payment. Well, you wouldn't do that if it meant your license would stay on chain forever. And so with ZK, and in particular, our view on recursive proofs, you can actually just selectively disclose some proofs and preserve your privacy. And we think that essentially this abstracted to pretty much most real-world use cases is one of the big hindrances preventing adoption. And recently, we've had lots and lots of discussion about ZK snarks. I guess probably a lot of people have a really good sense as far as some of the things ZK snarks can do. Again, the emphasis from our standpoint is really about user data protection, but scalability as well is something we think very deeply about. So, some of the issues with ZK snarks at the moment. Obviously, there are efficiency questions. When we look at the landscape across Ethereum, we see lots and lots of shared sequencers, centralized provers, a weird patchwork of Frankenstein solutions. I mean, these are very, very, very hard problems, and there's really talented, hardworking, dedicated people working on them, but these are very hard problems. Okay, so this kind of leads into where we're going with all of this. And I appreciate you guys sticking with me through this. So in February, Justin Drake tweeted this picture of this chip, and it's the first snark-proving ASIC. And then, like I said last week, the other week, I was actually in Hong Kong. I spoke at the Web3 festival. I didn't sort of describe everything that we're doing, just a little piece of it, and Vitalik did his wonderful keynote and somehow laid it all out. We couldn't believe it. But basically, ZK snarks, aggregation, hardware, software, co-design. And I think that's sort of one of the really interesting and important themes that's emerging right now that everybody in Ethereum is starting to pay attention to. And then our friends at Axial, wonderful people, hardware company, also focused on snark-proving ASICs. Okay, so Coming back to Telos, if you guys are interested in checking out the white paper, this is snarks. This is our recursive proof aggregator. We believe that recursive proofs will play a very, very important role in the future to come, particularly if we're talking about hardware-software co-design, and especially if we're talking about hardware acceleration. OK, so this is basically one of the things I'm very fortunate and happy to announce today. Telos will be launching its hardware-accelerated ZK VM L2. This thing will be featuring snarks, and we hope to provide a data protection hub for Ethereum and beyond. And I'll talk a little bit more about what exactly we're doing, and more importantly, some of our new partners. OK, so yeah. This stuff is very, very, very hard. It's very hard to build highly performant ZK systems. There are extremely talented people, very hardworking people dedicated to this stuff. There are, across Ethereum and other networks, there's tremendous talent. For example, when you look at something like Aleo, when you look at Monad, when you look at some of these other teams, they've raised tremendous amounts of money from very smart people. They're attacking very hard problems. And I think, this is my personal opinion, but I think the future of Ethereum is going to necessarily depend on hardware-software co-design, the extent to which we can effectively and efficiently prove snarks with ASICs in particular, and then the extent to which we can make all of that function very well across the ecosystem. And so this is sort of our view on it, at least part of it, at a high level. In particular, ZK rollup efficiently verified on Ethereum. OK, so a lot of you know me, or I guess some of you have been my friends for a very long time. I've been in Ethereum since the beginning. I was kind of originally the consensus dude, I guess. I spent some time at Polygon as well. And I remember the early days when we started off as a proof-of-work network. And then along the way, we sort of developed this narrative that actually ASICs are really bad and destroying the planet, and sort of like we have to move away from that. But I think that there's been a lot of maturity. There's tremendous innovation insofar as clean, renewable power, all sorts of different projects out there in the ecosystem which are incentivizing away the problem that used to be perceived in the past as far as ASICs not being something that we could value. And so coming back to ASICs, I think is part of the future of Ethereum. And so hardware-software co-design is going to be very critical if we're going to attack the ZK problem in an efficient way. We have to think about that from the ground up. How do we design the two in conjunction with each other such that when we accelerate, it's not just some functionalities that sort of perform better, but the whole system achieves significant improvement. So I'm also very happy and privileged and honored to introduce some of our new partners today. Telos is going to be embarking on this journey with a coalition of very good friends, starting with our friends at Ponos Technology. Maybe not super well known in, let's say, the broader Ethereum mainstream or retail world, but when it comes to the bleeding edge as far as researchers are concerned, these are some of the best in the business, very hardworking people, and they've been focused on ZK research for many years now. And I'm very, very happy and honored to announce them as our partners. Not too long ago, we also announced Jerome. Many of you know Jerome. Jerome is the founder of Ethereum France, the founder of SCC, and also the founder of Cometh. He's come on board as our EVM advisor. Our good friends at ATCA. This is one of the bleeding edge incubators in Paris. They incubated groups like Morpho and Mangrove, for example, very good friends of ours, also advising us. And then Digital Mob. Some of you might remember these guys as basically Consensus Romania. Milad and Dragos and some of these guys, they've built many key projects in Ethereum over the last 10 years. So this is basically what what the new Telos looks like. And together we're going to be focused on hardware, software, co-design, and tackling these problems together. Just a bit more about Ponos technology. So the CEO of Ponos is a guy named Slobodan. Slo, very good friend of mine. He lives in Lugano. There's a wonderful university there. Actually, Lugano is very interesting for a number of reasons. I was just there last month. We had some conversations with the Plan B guys, and I have to say, the work they're doing in Lugano is spectacular. There is a density of tremendous talent there, lots and lots of researchers, really great people working on really tough problems. And so Ponos has been, actually these guys were, if some of you might remember, part of the original Polygon ZK team, and they've worked with a number of other groups across Ethereum and other networks as well for quite some time, intensely focused on basically the intersection of hardware, software, co-design, and ZK. Just a little quote from Slo. Give you a second to take a look at it. And so we believe that, so we're betting everything on ZK. And we're taking a hardware, software, co-design approach. We think that, and we were just talking backstage, and it was like sort of not much, and then suddenly everything all at once. And that's how we think this is going to happen. In other words, when the infrastructure reaches a point where the efficiency and the scalability is there, it's going to be very difficult to use anything other than a fully provable system, okay, where every single computational step, storage operation, every single action that happens is fully provable. This is, I think, going to be necessary. And so Slobodan is a very elegant speaker, and I'm sure he'll be participating in a lot more conferences, and I think you guys will hear a lot more from him soon. These are just some thoughts from Alberto, who's actually here in the front row. And Alberto's is a wonderful person. He's done a great job. snarks is something he's been working on for some time, in conjunction with a couple IOG researchers as well, really wonderful people. And Alberto has helped me understand, and all of us understand, the extent to which user privacy is fundamental, okay? And it's not just fundamental for some of the reasons we've talked about in the past. It's fundamental because it unlocks the vast majority of all the possible use cases out there, which we currently can't serve. And so I would even sort of expand a little bit more on the car rental example, and I would come back to identity. And so you can establish your canonical identity on chain, and you can have persona constructs that describe various attributes about your identity, and those persona constructs can collect attestations. And you can imagine over time, this forms the notion of reputation. And now that reputation can be persistent, portable, and transitive, meaning you can take it with you. You can log into any application anywhere in the world with your identity. You don't need some intermediary like Google or Apple to do that for you, or Facebook. However, this is sort of an idealistic vision that we cannot realize without this technology, because you're not ever going to put the full extent of your identity on chain if you can't selectively disclose, okay? If you can't give granular authentication. In other words, if everything is just there for everybody to see, we can keep talking about these use cases, and we can keep talking about institutionals and everything else, but until we can offer fully provable systems and user privacy, or rather data protection, user data protection, we're just not going to realize those use cases. And so I know lots of people talk about DePIN as an example. I think it's a great emerging sector, lots of great real-world asset stuff happening. And so when you think about something like that, it's not primary issuance where banks make money, it's on secondary trading, okay? And we can construct things like permissioned actors on permissionless systems. Or we can construct fully provable infrastructure that gives you full control and sovereignty over your identity, against which you can have various persona constructs that could look like a business persona, for example, an institutional persona, a certain department within an institution, which can have the appropriate attestations, which then give you access to whatever it is that you're doing. In other words, you can have granular authentication native into the system. And so you can see, if we realize ZK at scale, and we believe that looks like hardware, software, co-design, leveraging things like recursive proofs, then you can implement things like self-sovereign identity at tremendous scale and unlock the full potential of what this technology can do, let's say in the case of the institutionals. Jesse Schulman is the CTO of Telos, wonderful guy, lives in, spends a lot of his time in California, but he's all over the world. He's been with Telos for quite some time. Yeah, it's just kind of funny to me because, you know, Ethereum has been such an important part of my life, and many of my friends, a lot of whom are here, and Telos came onto my radar actually because of that exploit in 2021, which Sentinel, by the way, to their credit, wonderful auditors discovered, and sort of, in some ways, saved Ethereum at that time. So, just a little bit about our ZK journey. We started doing research, particularly on recursive proofs, some time ago. Alberto was thinking very intensely with that, alongside Danielle, one of our other ZK research leads, and Jesse. They spent some time together in San Diego. We had a workshop. We published a SnarkTor white paper in January, and over the last 4, 5, 6 months, we've been collaborating intensely with our partners at Ponos Technology. We actually had an intense workshop in March. It was wonderful. We got to spend some time together in Milan. Today, we're making this announcement as a sort of first step, introducing everything. And where are we going, I guess, or where are we going to try to go? So we're also a title sponsor at SCC in July. Some of you might remember me as the guy that sponsored SCC with my face, which was kind of like a funny thing. Jerome's one of my best friends, and nobody would give him any money during the COVID stuff, so I ended up sponsoring it, and we just donated money to charity. This year, I've given that sponsorship to Telos, and so we'll be there at SCC. We're going to be demoing a proof of concept, basically SnarkTor accelerated and maybe playing a game or something like that. We're going to be releasing a new white paper shortly. We're going to offer our existing Telos community the opportunity to participate with their existing tokens. So we will not, we won't be doing an ICO. We've never done an ICO. We won't be doing anything like that or any kind of token sale. It's just going to be something that's available to our existing community. And then going into the early part of next year, hopefully the later part of this year, but we'll see. We're going to start releasing our first iteration of a hardware software co-design, ZK VM L2. Thank you all very much for your time. And here's just a few links if you guys want to follow on Twitter or connect. Very happy to meet with you all. So super cool, and thank you very much.